When you're a critically acclaimed filmmaker within the Hollywood system, I'm sure one of the most nerve-wracking things you can possibly face is the prospect of following up a slam dunk work of yours with another film that might or might not stick the landing. Think about it. You're a movie director, and your previous film was a critically acclaimed darling. It garnered awards consideration, the box office performance was stellar, and people everywhere were talking about it. The fans of yours are demanding another film, and you've got an intense amount of pressure on you to deliver. This is exactly what Bong Joon-Ho is facing with his follow-up to 2017 smash hit Best Picture winner Parasite, which is hailed as one of the greatest films ever made. His follow-up feature, named Mickey 17, lands in theaters this weekend after numerous delays from Warner Brothers pushed it to this year. It's a long-awaited film for so many cinephiles and film fans everywhere, and people are eagerly anticipating seeing what Bong Joon-Ho delivers next. However, the unfortunate truth of a film like Mickey 17 is that it's just not amazing. It's a fine enough film for what it is, but the fact that this film is following right after Bong Joon-Ho's previous masterwork is definitely jarring. It's a different film in almost every regard, as everything from the less serious or grounded tone to the over-the-top sequences scattered throughout allow this film to have much more in common with his earlier filmography. The film stars Robert Pattinson as the titular character Mickey, who is a man living in the distant future on Earth who takes up a specific job on a space station to escape a debt he has on the planet, which is the job of an expendable. What does this mean? It means that the company clones Mickey, and every time he is sent on a dangerous or deadly job for the company, there's no worry, as they simply bring him back to life to send him back out on another task such as this. As iteration and iteration of Mickey continually go out and repeatedly die, Mickey begins to struggle with a personal reflection on what life and death ultimately mean. The setup of this film is ripe for a brilliant examination of the workplace, and Bong Joon-Ho ultimately does a lot of interesting things with this setup. As the film starts and we are introduced to Mickey, the film approaches a serious yet also darkly comedic tone, as we watch this man as he is unintentionally set against his will to complete tasks that ultimately cause more harm to him than good. This sets up such a poignant and impactful look at freedom within our own lives, especially in the workplace. Now, Bong Joon-Ho has not shied away from the themes of overt antagonism over corporate capitalism, and he continues to bring that to this film. The movie ultimately examines the ethics of an employee that is essentially property of the company he works for, and the outcome that affects him on a personal level. It's such a thought-provoking and intense film in this way, and Robert Pattinson knocks it out of the park as Mickey. Pattinson has consistently done excellent work with all of his artistically driven roles post-Twilight, and here he continues that streak. By conveying a man forced to do his task against his will, combined with the fact that he has to juggle multiple different roles and different iterations of his character here, it makes for such an interesting character study and examination into this man's psyche. He's also straight up hilarious in how his dual roles interact with each other on screen, making for memorable moments of comedic intelligence and insight throughout. However, one of the biggest problems with this film is how it jarringly pivots away from an intellectual breakdown of this topic of corporate greed in favor of a mainstream and generic action style flick for the third act. The ending of this film leaves so much to be desired in terms of depth or substance. It almost feels like the story is so well developed and comprehended up to a specific point, and then nosedives into quite unsubstantial and surface level territory for its conclusion, which is a major problem here, because the conclusion needed to be incredibly strong to support the incredible material introduced in the setup. Third act almost feels like a different film entirely, which is incredibly unfortunate. It's so blatantly mainstream, with an over-the-top action set piece serving as the dramatic conclusion, but this comes at a steep cost, as this ending does not devote enough time to wrapping up any specific plot points. This leaves the audience with more questions than it does answers, and the overall execution of the ending feels incredibly rushed and poorly paced. The supporting cast also doesn't feel like it's doing anything outside of the norm, and feels somewhat subdued in comparison to Pattinson's lead role, which is ultimately unfortunate because everyone involved in the supporting cast is insanely talented. Mark Ruffalo tries his hand at an over-the-top and satirical antagonist, yet the execution feels unintentionally comedic for all the wrong reasons. Toni Collette is fine enough, although she's given remarkably little to do. Naomi Ackie holds her own opposite Pattinson, matching his insane energy and even topping it at key points throughout. And Steven Yeun is perhaps the best character in this other than Pattinson's Mickey, but he shows up for remarkably little of the film's overall runtime. It's also incredibly frustrating to see a film like this with such a thought-provoking idea and message that is conveyed in such a non-subtle and surface-level way. Nothing about the centralized themes or ideas here is particularly complex, and it feels like the same territory has been covered and explored by so many other films, which is a rarity for Bong Joon-Ho. Perhaps it's the fact that this movie is based on a novel that leads to this, but it's just so frustrating that nothing about the execution is different at the end of the day. In this way, Mickey 17 is a disappointing film for the sheer fact that it doesn't feel entirely original. Large portions of this feel quite derivative from other films of the past, which isn't helped by a lackluster conclusion and subpar script. It's an extremely entertaining film, if not just for Pattinson's insane performance, then for the dark comedy itself. But it doesn't leave audiences with anything whole or complete. In this way, I feel that Mickey 17 is going to be this year's Beau is Afraid. In that, I mean, if you like it, you'll really like it, but if you hate it, you'll really hate it. It's going to divide audiences for sure. But if you go in with an open mind and prepare to see an experience that only someone like Bong Joon-Ho could bring you, you'll enjoy it on that level. Just don't go in looking for a life-changing take on corporate greed and late-stage capitalism like some of his other films, and you won't walk away disappointed with this one. That's why I'm giving Mickey 17 a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.